Hi, it's Hilary bringing you leadership strategies for you to bring your best to any business situation. I'm the author of several leadership books, including The Executive Transition Playbook and The Truth About Change, where I share time-tested leadership advice so you can lead yourself and others to achieve positive business outcomes. Have you ever felt that there was no time to think or tackle a project or initiative? In this segment, we're going to discuss a concept I call the power of 15. It's a way to move forward on specific projects and actions when you're struggling to find the energy and the time. You know those days that are filled with those last-minute requests that all seems to have this high sense of urgency to get things done right now, and these activities that, while they feel important in the moment, it's all about putting out fires. But we actually realize that these fire drills are going to continue until we find the time and the space to solve the bigger issue. And you've probably heard the quote, "What is important is seldom urgent, and what is urgent is seldom important." We're talking today about how do we take those important activities and tasks and make sure that they get done. One client, let's call him Gary, used to complain he didn't have the time to pull together his financial strategy because his entire days were spent chasing issues, developing or revising presentations to explain why the business was off track. His boss kept asking him where was this financial strategy that could help them improve the business. And Gary would think to himself, of course I know how to create a financial strategy, I just haven't found the time to think. Have you ever been in Gary's shoes where you knew that you had an important task, but you couldn't seem to find the mind space to get things started? So what gets in the way? You may be pulled in many different directions with competing priorities, just like Gary. The tactical activities can take over the more conceptual and strategic thinking that needs to happen before you take action. You may get overwhelmed with complexity and the scope of a project. There are so many things to consider. A common mistake people make is looking at the big, hairy, audacious goal, and they do not know how to even get started. You've probably heard the saying, how do you eat an elephant? Well, you eat it one bite at a time. And usually we need a moment to think about and create the way forward. When we focus solely on the big goal, the elephant, the end game, it can be very hard to see around the corner to the specific milestones and actions. A third challenge can be that we delay and we push out the work until the 11th hour, and then at the last minute we rip it into high gear. We may even convince ourselves that our ideas are better under pressure of the timeline. We work frantically to pull things together, but are we really putting our best ideas and effort forward? This 11th hour rush to get things done feeds into our distractions. In fact, Microsoft, who studied our own attention span, says in this digital lifestyle, we have made it very difficult for ourselves to stay focused. We look for those instant responses and answers to the point that our attention span has diminished to less than that of a goldfish. There are also studies that have shown that if we put our mind to it, the optimal focused attention span of healthy adults ranges anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. We need strategies to use these short bursts of focus versus waiting and praying that we will miraculously find the blocks of time in our day. These short bursts can help us get started. Then as the project and activity gets underway, we'll find a natural cadence and rhythm. I call this the power of 15. It's about taking 15 minutes to focus just on one piece of project. Instead of getting overwhelmed about a project or activity that we've convinced ourselves needs hours and days to accomplish, first start with 15 minutes. The power of 15 is a way to turn those key projects that we seem never to find the time to work on and make slow but steady progress in 15 and maybe even 20-minute increments. Let's look at how it works. First, identify your goal. What do you need to accomplish? Maybe your goal is to create a marketing strategy or a supply-demand forecast or a client presentation. Maybe it's as simple as composing a memo or writing a report. Whatever that is, it's important that we take that project and we identify a goal so that we can then break it up into smaller milestones. Smaller goals will give us more concrete things to pay attention to. So right now, name something that you need to take care of. What is your goal? And yes, you can start with your big, hairy, audacious goal, but I'd like you also to think through some of the milestones so that you can break them up into actionable pieces. Because once you have that goal and you identify the actions to accomplish the goal, you're starting to get on the right track. It sounds simple enough, but what I find is that there's a tendency to make these actions actually too big to cover in 15 minutes. So then it becomes really hard to advance the project because we don't have the time. So it helps to take your elephant, your behemoth project, and break it up into actionable 15-minute steps. Whether it's working a component of the strategy, developing a spreadsheet, or maybe a part of the spreadsheet, writing a report or part of the report, or making a phone call, you may find yourself pushing out these activities. It may be helpful to break those activities up into smaller actions that you can actually work in 15 minutes. In the case of Gary, he thought he needed hours to work on his financial strategy, and that he was just not going to find the time in the day. So I asked him, what are some of the actions you need to take to get this started? And he said, I need first time to think and strategize my approach. Then I want to put it to paper. So I suggested maybe you start 15 minutes with a couple different brainstorming sessions, maybe around the issues, maybe around the opportunities, maybe around the projects, something to get him started in smaller increments. The next step, and it's important and it's often overlooked, is you need to write the actions down. What is it that you want to accomplish? And don't keep them in your head. You've got too much going on and you're going to forget them. Write them down. It allows you then to know where you are in the project, and then you can step in and out of that project with ease. Another thing that I find is really important is it's one thing to have a list of actions. The next thing is to prioritize and sequence those activities so that you're best leveraging your time. Because your time is valuable, make sure that you're doing the most important actions versus those that fill your time. This means letting go some actions that you might think are nice to do, but they're really not very important to advancing the effort. So take your list of actions and prioritize, sort, and sequence those actions into a cadence which allows you to leverage your 15 minutes and advance the effort. Now that you have goals, milestones, and actions, it's time to use the power of 15 to work each of these tasks. What you might find is a simple task will still get pushed from one day to the next. Think about what's happening. You may need to break that task up into smaller actions. For instance, a simple phone call to a colleague to get input can get pushed from Monday to Tuesday to Wednesday. What's happening there? Well, most possibly you may need to prepare for that call. You may just need to pull together some information. You may need to prepare questions. There are other pieces that need to be put together before you can have a meaningful conversation. So use the power of 15 to get those things accomplished. You can also block time on your calendar. It's so much easier to find 15 minutes than it is those 2 or 3 hour blocks of time. And it's amazing that our calendars can oftentimes drive our day. Gary found out this when I suggested he block the 15 minutes. He was not getting that financial strategy completed. But when he put 15 minutes a day over a 2-week business week, that was 2.5 hours that he hadn't found in months to pull together that strategy. The next thing, for those of you that are busy, you might want to set a timer so you don't have to concentrate on time. Put the timer on for 15 minutes or maybe even 12 minutes so that you use your last 3 minutes to actually wrap up and put the actions so that you can stay on time for your next meeting. And some of you are telling me that it's really still hard to find 15-minute blocks in the day. So I suggest starting to find time in the cracks. A good place to do this is your commute time. And what I find is people typically have a commute and they're using that commute time to and from the office or maybe the plane or train or bus to work on other things. Can you take 15 minutes, carve out 15 minutes for your special project so that you can advance it? What I found with one executive is that she was using her whole commute time to talk on the phone. What I suggested is maybe a couple times a week, you actually use 15 minutes of that commute time to think about and strategize around her plan. And what she found, it was very valuable And in 3 weeks' time, she was advancing that plan quicker than she had been in several months. What I also suggest is, and I wouldn't suggest this while you're driving, but if once you're in a safe place, is to take notes. If you have spent some time reflecting and thinking, jot down what you thought about and your next steps, so that when you pick that task back up, that project back up, you have a starting point that you can continue. The Power 15 is all about focusing on what matters. It's about advancing strategic work that we're having trouble finding the time to think, strategize, plan, and act on. So give it a try. I suggest making it your own, and I'd love to hear how you're using the Power 15. If you've liked what you've heard and are looking for more ideas and leadership strategies, take a look at the download of the Leader Change Toolkit. It's on my website at www.hilarypotts.com/resources.html. And inside that toolkit, you're going to find ways to get prepared for significant change, 5 keys to leading change, and the change leader behaviors that will help you with your next strategic initiative. That can be found at www.hilarypotts.com/resources.html. If you've liked what you heard, I have more information on my website at hilarypotts.com. I have blogs, podcasts, videos, information on my coaching and consulting. You can also check out my books, The Executive Transition Playbook and The Truth About Change. And I always love to hear how you are making these strategies your own. And you can send me a comment through my website at hilarypotts.com. It's been great talking to you, and until next time, continue to bring your best to leading yourself and others. Bye for now.